Good evening and welcome to Mindful Live 315. I am your host, Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. I'm actually the co-host. The host is doing what she does whenever she does it, as she always does. And we are currently on the 24th of November, a month away from Christmas Eve. 'Tis the most wonderful time of the year. Tis the most wonderful time of the year. So once you're inside of the live, hit that like button if you're viewing this on Instagram or on TikTok. You know, you double tap the screen in case you're wondering. You double tap the screen over there on Instagram and you like the video. That's how you do it. And you can do it over and over and over again as many times as you see fit. And you should see fit many times. And if you are viewing this on repeat over on YouTube, you can also hit that like button, drop a comment, tell me what you think. If you haven't subscribed yet to Nathan Springer over there on YouTube, be sure to do so. Subscribe to Nathan Springer over there. But yes, this evening we're speaking about an intended lawsuit coming out from Tobago towards Trinidad. Yes, apparently Tobago might sue Trinidad. Tell the people hello. Tell the people hello. Yes. Tell the people hi. The host has decided to join. What's up? But yes, let's jump in one time. Chief Sec THA to take legal action on 166 million owed by the government. How you feel about your fellow libertarian Argentinian new president-elect? I am very interested to see. I am very interested to see exactly how it's all going to work out, because lots of libertarian principles are spoken about, but it's not very often you get to see them in action in governance, because there aren't many politicians who go into politics to be libertarians. So this is going to be very interesting to me. I will be having a keen eye out on Argentina to see where this all goes. I'm very interested. But yes, our chief secretary in our sister island of Tobago, part of Trinidad and Tobago, we are one country. We are one country. We are one country, and that part of the country has decided they want to sue this part for money. Which, really and truly, that's kind of what all lawsuits are about at the end of the day, isn't it? Money. Chief Secretary THA to take legal action on 166 million owed by government. Chief Secretary Farley Augustine says his administration is taking legal action to get some $166.4 million, which the government owes the THA in approved parliamentary allocations over the past few years. The THA is also pursuing legal action to ensure governments give the Assembly an annual budget allocation commensurate with its development agenda. You see, the way it generally goes, Tobago asks for a certain amount of money. That request comes to Trinidad. The Trinidad and Tobago government, the government of Trinidad and Tobago, decides how much of that they're going to allocate to Tobago, and they give them some. And when they give them that, now Tobago has to reprioritize that massive budget they had and put it in view, in line with the amount they are allocated from central government. Ronnie Cakes wants to know if they used all their money in London. I don't know, Ronnie. I don't know. He was moving a motion in the Assembly legislature to reprioritize the THA's 2023-2024 budget allocation. In the Tobago budget in June, the THA requested $4.54 billion from central government to manage its affairs over the next year, but only received $2.585 billion in the national budget in September. Thank you, Dexter Morgan. Good night to you. So, therein you see a problem that arises, that would arise nearly every year. A problem that would arise basically every year. They're asking for $4.54 billion. And bear in mind, when they prepare a budget like that, they're basically saying, this is the amount we need to run this country. And then the central government is saying, well, hard luck on that, you can't get that much. That's obviously going to create problems every year. Understandably so. Yes, she does, Roddy, she does. It's like you put two of us in a blender, mix us together, and you get her pretty much. I think she's ready to go sleep. Exactly a year ago on November 24th, 2022, at a plenary sitting, Augustine accused central government of not disbursing the THA's full fiscal allocation from the budget over the past 5 years. So what they're claiming, what they're saying, is that even in the amount allocated to them, they haven't gotten that full amount from central government. Now, something that I find very interesting in all of this is he is asking for money that was left out from the fiscal years 2016 to 2022. Bear in mind, the PDP, now TPP, was not in power in Tobago since 2016. So part of what he is asking for, seeking to get here, is money that he is alleging wasn't disbursed to the previous administration, and he wants it all now in this administration. Good luck on that. I don't know how such a case is going to really go, but good luck on that. And he isn't only going at the direction of the legal pursuit in the courts, he's also seeking redress with the Dispute Resolution Commission. We are now at an advanced stage in our preparation for legal action and preparations of complaints to invoke the jurisdiction of the Dispute Resolution Commission provided for under Section 56 of the THA Act. Now, again, that Dispute Resolution Commission is central government selects some people, THA selects some people, they put them together and they decide what to do. I don't think they're going to decide in the way that the THA wants. I don't think that's going to go the way the THA wants or the Chief Secretary wants. I don't think it works like that necessarily. Morris, Imbert wrote Chief Sec on Tobago allocation. THA Minority Leader Kelvin Morris says as far as he's aware, the Finance Minister wrote to the Chief Secretary outlining the reasons for the shortfall in parliamentary disbursements over the past few years. So, allegedly, there is some shortfall which is acknowledged by the Finance Minister, but he has written to the Chief Secretary outlining exactly why that is the case, what the shortfall is because. And what he is describing this as, the minority leader, he is saying the reason they are making this a case is because they are failing at delivering on promises. The Darrell Spring Whim Assemblyman who gave the minorities bench reply to the motion added, interestingly, just yesterday, that would have been Thursday, I presented a scoreboard of the reprioritized projects of 2022, where of the 76 projects identified by the Farley-led administration, only 20 of those projects were either started or completed, which equates to a failed performance grade of 25%. So apparently, the Farley-led administration in Tobago is not completing the projects that they said they would complete in the last budgetary allocation. And they're looking for a little extra something to help carry them through to complete some more of what they intend. Their former leader isn't with it though. Duke slams THA's legal action against government. Progressive Democratic Patriots political leader Watson Duke has criticized the Tobago House of Assembly's plan to take legal action to get some $166.4 million, which it claims the government owes it in approved parliamentary allocations over the past few years. At a news conference on Friday at the PDP's headquarters, Duke said the THA should not have sought legal action. Woy, Nisi, what's going on? You missed your friend, your host. He said, I am against legal action. Yes, when you take legal action against someone, it diminishes your ability to use moral suasion, he told reporters. Listen, if there's one thing Duke could do, is talk, eh? The man could talk. The man looks like he enjoys talking. Duke, a former Public Services Association president, said he was an expert at negotiations and he would have handled the situation differently. Duke said he's an expert at this negotiation business. If they had him in that position, he would have handled this totally differently. I do believe him, Ronnie. I do believe him, actually. Duke went on. You can see what is happening now from my departure from the union now as a whole. It is a football game there now. He's throwing talk. That's such an egregious misspelling of the word there, us manners. I don't know why that is the case. But he used the opportunity to throw a jab at the Public Services Association because remember the PSA right now is in a bit of a monkey pants, a bit of a bacchanal. Some of the PSA members are not happy with the PSA leadership because the PSA was one of the unions that did not take the 4% before the budget. And the people who took the 4% are getting a bonus of their back pay for Christmas. Back pay is coming before Christmas. That is the promise of the finance minister. Unfortunately for the Public Services Association members, their union didn't take that opportunity, so they are not getting their back pay for Christmas. And that decision is creating some friction within the union. So Duke has used that opportunity also to throw a jab back even at the union. Duke went on. You have to know sometimes when to harden up and when to soften up and when to be consistent. Listen, Duke is giving lessons in negotiation here. Negotiation 101. You have to know sometimes when to harden up and when to soften up and when to be consistent. This is like that old country and western song, The Gambler. You have to know when to hold them. You have to know when to fold them and when to walk away. Duke is giving advice like, a seasoned veteran here. He said Augustine did not know how to do that. And like under all kicks, I kind of agree with Duke. I think Mr. Augustine, might actually benefit from some of this kind of advice, where he learns when to harden up, when to soften up, and when to be consistent. Because it really does feel sometimes like Mr. Augustine's only mode is hard. he is using that aggressive stance at all times, it could seem. So I understand the advice from Mr. Duke there. And Paul Duncan, I see you have misspelled totally also. This seems to be a trend. Why is this misspelling occurring? Why are these people misspelling this word in such a manner? Mr. Duke continued saying he lacks experience. Speaking of Mr. Augustine here, he lacks experience, and those around him are equally bereft of the experience that is required to take him to the next level. He will continue being a miniature politician if he listens to these people. He has to be bigger than that. Listen, politics is, they really throw some insults at you in politics. When you study, this man is talking about you on a national stage. And he's talking about bereft of experience, and he will continue being a miniature politician. This man, is you he talking about, you know? Like, you really need thick skin to be in politics. You really do need it. Duke said Augustine's motion in the House came down to a soundbite that the THA was going to sue the government. That is foolishness. You don't do that. What you want to do is say to the government, we understand your position, but we will continue to have discussions with you because we must get our money. And Duke is right. Duke is right. Suing the government in this case is really foolishness. And the point Duke is making there, it makes sense. This is how you deal with matters when you're dealing with people who have the power in this case. You're telling them, we understand the position you're in, but we are insisting that we must get this thing, and we'll keep pressuring you until we get it. Suing them is going to do what? He said the THA could have gone the way of mediation or seeking an intervention through CARICOM, which is true. A legal challenge, he added, must be a last resort. The court is a long process, and that will take forever, and you can't win. The man with the most money wins. It goes all the way to the Privy Council, and then where are you then? He, Augustine, is using silly tactics. Like, I agree with Duke. I know it could feel strange saying it sometimes, but I agree with Duke. Like, if you're saying your problem is getting money to run your country, getting money to keep everything running, how much does it cost to carry a case to the Privy Council? Because as Duke said, you must understand that is where this case is going to go. Hey, Uruguayan, what's up? That is where this case is going to go. If it goes to the junior court and the junior court rules in the THA's favor, the government is going to appeal it. If they rule in the government's favor, the THA is going to appeal it. If it goes to the appeal court and the appeal court changes the ruling or continues the ruling in the THA's favor, the government is going to take it to the Privy Council. If they continue or change the ruling in the THA in the government's favor, the THA is going to take it to the Privy Council. Ultimately, it always ends at the Privy Council. That is where it is going to go. And now, I don't want to presume to say how the Privy Council is going to rule. But let's look at this. The Privy Council is in the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom is a country where they understand about having wards and having unequal partnerships and having hopefully equal partnerships in bond in one country. There's Ireland, there's Britain, there's Wales, there's Scotland, there's the Isle of Jersey. There are quite a few different little nuances in governance over there in United Kingdom. Do you think the highest court in the United Kingdom is going to rule a precedent into the law books where a ward could sue the central government to demand more money? I just feel like that's something that the Privy Council is not going to want to put into your favor. It's just looking at it as it is now, I don't know, maybe he has gotten some legal advice where they have scoured the history of the Commonwealth and they see some precedent here where, yes, we may win this, we can sue the central government for more money. But I find that hard to believe. I find that hard to believe. Local government councils and what they call them, corporations, regularly lament and complain that they don't get enough money from the government. Can they take the government to court and demand more? Legal budgeted allocations not delivered. I'd like to see how it will play out. White leather, me too. I would like to see how it will play out, but I think it's ultimately going to play out in the government's favor, as almost all of those things do. If a government says they don't have enough money, they're not going to require the government to give the government more money. It's the government suing the government, really and truly. It's not a private actor suing the government here. This is the government suing the government. I highly doubt that there is a legal case to be made here. I highly doubt it. I wonder to myself how legally binding the budgetary allocation that is deemed to be sent to Tobago is in the first place. Like, if Trinidad says your budgetary allocation is 2.8 billion and something happens and we send 2.5, is it that the 2.8 was a legal agreement that was stipulated must be sent by punishment of law? Is that the case? Because budgets have editing during the year. The Ministry of Education may get a budget set at a certain amount at the reading of the budget, but during the course of the year, there could be some variation on that. Can the Minister of Education, and I know that's not going to happen because they are part of the same cabinet, but in terms of legal grounds, would it be possible for the Minister of Education to sue central government if the Ministry of Education gets less than they were promised in the budget? Like, I wonder. And is it an exercise that it makes sense spending, what, 5 million plus to find out? Because that's what's going to happen. They're going to have to spend a good couple million to find out this. Are you okay? You're saying, all right, we don't have enough money to do all that we need to do. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to spend a couple million just to find out if possibly we could squeeze the government for more money. I don't know. I just don't know if that's going to work. I don't see it working. I don't see how it's even possible to work like that. Like, I don't think it's possible to hold the government as part of the government, to hold the government legally required to give you exactly the amount they stipulated at the start of the budget. I don't know if that's possible. Local councils and boroughs could write tomes on being cash starved because of central government's fight. Yes, and they regularly talk about it. And the UNC is not a party afraid of the courts. The UNC is not a party lacking in access to lawyers. And there are many UNC councillors and local government jurisdictions that complain constantly that the central government is starving them for money to do things locally. I haven't seen them sue yet. Yes, Ronnie Cakes, there is some kind of Halloween music blowing. Are you all getting a little scared in the background there? It would be interesting to see how it ends. But as a Trinidadian, because as a Trinbagonian, this money is going to come out of our pockets jointly. You know that Tobago is going to have to pay their couple million to their lawyers for it to reach to the Privy Council. Trinidad and Tobago's central government, run by the PNM, is going to also have to pay for their defense. So the government sues the government and the people pay for both sides. Things that toes bump in the night. What's with the toes? Why all of a sudden as I'm reading this article, people keep mentioning toes? Ronnie, I'm not reading that comment. And you have a problem with some of the spooky music? I find it has a nice vibe to it. But yeah, as somebody pointed out, it's our money jumping up, taxpayers' money. And these are real issues. The reason property tax is being reintroduced, I mean, it was always there, technically you were always supposed to be paying it, but the reason they're coming back more seriously with it is because the government needs more money. The reason the RIC is ultimately looking to raise the bill for tea and tech is because the government cannot afford to continue paying the subsidy because the government needs more money. Now, if the government has to spend more money, they would have to get more money. So if you demand them go to court to the Privy Council, they would have to get more money. If you demand them give 100 extra million to Tobago, they'd have to get more money. If Tobago demands 4-point-something billion every year, double the amount they usually get, and they want to insist, they want to go to a commission to make sure that you must give us this amount. Where is the government going to get that extra money? And at the same time, while people ask for some of these things, out of the other side of their mouth, they're going to say that look at the government causing a strain on the poor people. Well, you keep asking for things from them, and the only way they can give you things is if they take things in the first place. We as taxpayers, government job is to create source of revenue. No, it's not, AL. Where did you get that as the government's job? Where was that lesson? The purpose of the state is to create sources of revenue? What? Says who? That's some communist stuff, bro. That's not the purpose of the state, to create sources of revenue. That's not the purpose of the state. The purpose of the state is to manage the joint affairs of the civilians living within its national borders. And generally, there are varying ways how there are varying ways people see that, and varying extents that they see that. But generally, the idea is the state is to manage the joint ventures, as it were. So the roads, you may want the state to do that. National security, you want the state to do that. Foreign policy, you want the state to do that. But when it comes to resources, that's individuals. That's individuals. Now, in the case of Trinidad and Tobago, and this is what spoiled Trinidad and Tobago to some extent. That is what the state did. Now, you have to understand, we inherited a state that was a colonial state. That was the purpose of a colonial state. The purpose of a colonial government was to create sources of revenue. That's what they did. They tried to make as much money out of the property that the colony was. That was their intention. Now, when you hand that colonial government back now to a local government, and this local government is acting in place of the colonial government, managing those revenue streams, what do they do with the money now? Well, we treat our population nice. We give them things. The problem with that is as the revenue streams dry up, because governments are not good at managing revenue streams. Governments are not good at doing business. When those revenue streams start to dry up, the things that the government used to give us, they can no longer give us. And if we still demand it, now they need to do a kind of cyclic trick action where they take it out of your left pocket to tuck it into your right pocket for you. We could help 250,000 new Latin immigrants. We could treat well with our sister. What? Were you talking about white leather? Majority of Trinis are socialist communists in their viewpoint of political philosophy. True, Lisa. True. That's true. The problem with it to me is many of them don't even know they're socialist communists. And many of them don't understand the ramifications of being socialist communists. Let's look at some of it. Let's look at some of this. Homeowners face triple whammy increases in 2024. Ali, do you think we'll become robots in the future? No, I don't think so. Ali, we speak about that regularly, and I have no qualms about repeating it nearly every time we mention these issues. Tobago on average makes something like $200 and change million. Bear in mind, Tobago requested 4.6 upwards billion dollars in the last budget. They were allocated 2.8 billion. They make, as in produce, 200 million. The THA requested that. Just now, let me get the exact figure here. Let's pull up the exact figure that the THA requested. 4.54 billion. They requested from central government. They were allocated 2.85 billion. Much less than they requested, but 10 times more than they make. Listen, for those of you who understand some of the church practices out there, and you know the tenth, where the tithe in churches, they pay a tenth to the church, you give a tenth of your income. If Tobago paid their tithe off of the allocation Trinidad gave them, the money they gave to the church would be how much money they make. They make 1/10 of the allocation they're getting. So keep that in mind in most of the Tobago conversations. And especially as we come in here. Can you highlight the difference outside of their recurring expenditures? I don't know it offhand, Honorable Mr. Speaker, but the vast, it's 90+% of Tobago's expenditure is recurring expenditure. It's salaries, and every successive administration of the assembly increases the amount of public servants under the employ of the House of Assembly. That's a major part of it. They keep employing people. That's a large part of it. The government in Tobago is too big. It is too large. Having now finished working on the island for 6.5 years, Tobago is not capable of self-governance. Right, so one can understand the need for a higher allocation for development. But is that so, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, like, if you think about it, if you have a son, if you have a child, offspring, and you give them $100 in allowance per week, they could spend it as they see fit. They get $100 per week. But in that $100, they have to travel to school also. The traveling for the week, let's say, is cheap. It's $20 back in the day. But every week, they keep telling you that, you know, Daddy, I buy snacks for all my friends. I buy snacks for all my friends, and now I don't have enough money. Is giving them more money the solution to that problem? And bear in mind, this money doesn't come from magic. There isn't a magic tree that we go and shake to get the money to do that. That money comes from the pockets of hard-working middle-class people. That's the next story I was getting to here. Let's jump into that story. Homeowners face triple whammy increases in 2024. Thousands of homeowners in TNT are facing the prospect of a dismal 2024 with a sharp reduction in their disposable income as a result of the reintroduction of the tax on property, the proposed escalation in the price of electricity, and higher home insurance premiums. Taken together, the increased costs will hurt all homeowners, but they will particularly be painful to retirees and people on fixed incomes such as public servants and members of the protective services. In other words, a lot of your middle class. Good night, Michelle. But here's the issue with that, Michelle. You have a limited amount of money that you could give to your child. If every week you give your child money, they tell you that they're feeding their less fortunate friends in the class, and they don't have enough money to travel home, so they come asking you for more money, and more money, and more money. Which would run out first? Children in need or your money? Which one would run out first? At some point in time, you have to decide, listen, we can't help all of them in need. And that's the problem that Tobago is facing here. You cannot employ every Tobagonian and give them a stable work and allow them to get the perfect job of only working 5 hours per day while giving them a nice income to keep their family alive. It just can't happen. We don't have that kind of money. And by them wanting to do that, the people who actually make the resources in the country, the people who are actually working and creating value for the country, They are the ones who are going to suffer. Last Saturday, as more and more people started to get notices of valuation in the mail, Minister of Finance Colm Imbert issued a news release taking note of a misunderstanding regarding the meaning and effect of the notices of valuation which are being posted out to residential property owners. Imbert said although these notices of valuation do not refer to property tax and are not issued by the Board of Inland Revenue, it is being erroneously promoted by mischief makers that the annual rental value is equal to the property tax that owners will have to pay. For the record, the property tax makes it clear the Property Tax Act, makes it clear property tax is only 3% of the annual rental value, for residential properties after first deducting 10% from the annual rental value. It is not the whole amount. Okay, so let's work out that amount. A homeowner in West Trinidad, a retired senior public servant who has lived in her house for more than 30 years, showed the Business Guardian her notice of valuation, which indicated her annual rental value is about $150,000. Using the formula provided by the Ministry of Finance, 150,000 by 0.9 by 0.03, the homeowner determined that her potential annual property tax liability was $4,050, or $337 a month. That $337 a month might not sound like a huge amount to some people, but it is significant to me, as I am already living retirement check to retirement check. The $337 is close to what I spend on pharmaceuticals each month, the homeowner said. Yes, Michelle, that is plenty money. That is plenty money. And the reality is, there are quite a few retirees in positions like this, where they spent their whole life acquiring things, investing it into their property. It works out to $337 a month, Ronnie. They spent their life, and middle class people save, they pass on value, they pass on wealth by investing in their property. By and large, it's known. That's what middle class people do. They get money, they build an extension in their home. They get money, they do over their roof. They get money, they cast their driveway. They get money, they tile their driveway. They get money, they do some landscaping. They get money, they build a wall a little higher. They get money, they fix the gate. They get money, they put some lights on the fence post. That's how middle class people live. Maybe you are, Paul Duncan. Maybe you are. And the lady's rental value for her house was valued at $150,000 per year. That's what? About $13,000 a month, thereabouts. That's actually not that high for an owned property. That's not an astronomical number for a property. $1,250. $12,500 a month. That's not astronomical. Many of your parents, if your parents have their home that they retired into, that they built over the course of their life, if you do a rental valuation, $12,500 per month isn't insane. It's not an insane amount to say that it's a possibility of your rental valuation. $337 out of pocket per month. And keep that in mind when you hear people asking the government for more stuff. Here's one for electricity. The Business Guardian reached out to a homeowner in East Trinidad who said his last Tech bill reflected a 2-month consumption that cost $1,188 for 2 months, which is around $594 a month. Assuming this monthly consumption does not increase, this homeowner would receive a new monthly bill for $812, which is $218 more, or an increase of 36%. So if you were a gainfully employed middle class person paying a $1,200 electricity bill a month because you have your washer and your dryer and your children keep the lights on and you have an AC in the room and that kind of stuff, your property tax is mid 300 plus 200 more in electricity bills. That's running up the road, going up to $600 more per month out of your pocket. What's that I'm reading there? With Honorable Speaker. You do know Tobago's natural resources are out at sea, which, mind you, Trinidad. Oh, that oil talk again, y'all come back with that? Who did that study that said that Tobago would be wealthier? Who did that study and sold Tobago that dream? And now, if you are a responsible homeowner and you want to get some home insurance, so you are really part of that middle class, upwards going up the road to $600 more per month already, just in property tax and electricity expenses. A homeowner in South Trinidad paid $3,792 for the 12-month period. This is home insurance in December 2023 for a house valued at $1.4 million. Now, I don't know how many of you all look at the papers to buy property. $1.4 million is not a very expensive house in Trinidad and Tobago. I will have you know. The price to insure that home was $3,800 basically. The renewal notice for the period December 2023 to December 2024 indicated an annual premium of $4,550. That's an increase of $758 a year, or $63 a month. All of these things are adding up around a homeowner. How are they going to survive that? What you're doing there is all the middle class people who were scraping their way up to comfort and ease and maybe accumulating enough to pass on to their next generation, so maybe their next generation could get a leg up as they start. You just kick them down the ladder. You're just going to kick them down the ladder. So we might get the house market crash after all. Here's the problem, Ronnie Cakes. The problem is in Trinidad, there are a large amount of very wealthy people. If property prices start to drop, it's more likely that the wealthy people would swallow it up than it will drop enough for some millennial buyers to get a bridging loan to get a property going. That's not going to happen. That's the dream. Now, I understand that dream, and that's why I say when people say that property tax is, so they feel property tax would raise the prices of property. No, I understand how potentially property tax could decrease the price of property. It could make the housing market more competitive by forcing people not hold on to extra properties that would just cost them money. But in this case, when the squeeze is happening on the middle class people, what it might actually turn out to be is that comparatively the middle class people are squeezed out of more properties than the wealthy people, who would actually swallow up a larger proportion of the properties. The middle class will maintain themselves on multiple properties. So it's really a benefit for the upper classes. Exactly, RL. It's a very captured market. There's no other land to produce. Oh, Matic boss. There's no new land that's going to magically come out. Yep, you will own nothing and be happy. But the Bamboo residents say if we have something to do about that, we fighting back. They decide that they're going to hold on to their property rights. Construction of Bamboo security booth completed. Construction of a security booth at Bamboo number 2 Valsane has been completed, and the barricades to the community should be up by tomorrow. The booth, which was constructed by residents and business owners from the area, has been the source of contention with the TPRC, which has deemed the structure to be illegal. Residents and business owners were invited to a meeting by the TPRC yesterday to discuss the issue, but were no show. They insist, however, that the booth is necessary for protection after a recent upsurge in crime in the area. And listen, I kind of don't blame them. If crime increase in my area, I've been complaining about the crime increase. People been losing their goods and lives continually. We didn't have a meeting to stop that. When I take matters into my own hands and start doing something to increase my security, all of a sudden you want to meet. You know what? Bye. Go your way. Go your way. No thanks for the meeting. Thanks, but no thanks. Them glass windows on the security booth not bulletproof. The problem, you see, RL, the problem is bandits have no interest in robbing the security booth. Why would a bandit shoot the security booth? What's the benefit in that? The security booth is to protect the entirety of the bamboo on the inside there. So what is your suggestion on that issue? The government should stop it? The bamboo booth? No, the government should not stop it. But if it's the bamboo booth, if you're talking about the property taxes, etc., I think our government spends too much money. That's a large part of the issue. Our government spends too much money. And listen to the idea, though, that the bamboo residents have. And it actually makes sense. It actually makes sense. Businessman and community activist Inshan, well, when I say spend too much, that's what I meant. Inshan Ishmael, who claims the TPRC does not have the authority to remove the boot, said his attorneys have advised him that the boot can only be removed if it is used for vending. He also claimed the TPRC has turned a blind eye to the other communities where security booths have been erected and residents of the bamboo feel they are being discriminated against. We are not going to stop anybody from entering bamboo number 2. When you reach the gates and you are an outsider, we will issue you a card and you can carry that to the bar or the place you are doing business that is open. They will stamp it and on your exit just give the card, so we are not going to debar you from entering. if you refuse to, we would take photographs of the vehicle and the driver and keep it on file, Ishmael said. Easy George says, you believe if bandits really want to come inside the bamboo, you really think that booth could stop them? No, the booth can't stop them, but the booth will alert the entirety of the bamboo of their presence. So you're a bandit. You're coming to the bamboo. You pull up at the guard booth. The guards ask your identification, etc., and give you a card about it. You are not going to give them a card, etc., if your identification, if you are going on your bandit business. You are going to blow past the booth because they can't stop me. And as soon as you blow past the booth, they take pictures of your vehicle and announce that 4 men are inside a white Tida, so and so and so, so and so and so. They are headed at a fast pace inside the bamboo. And who are you going to rob like that? Who are you going to catch? Bear in mind, the bamboo is one way in, one way out. At least if you're going by car. So when you speed in the bamboo to do your banditness, how you coming back out? And the bamboo has numerous businessmen. Do you think that none of those businessmen have licensed firearms? Do you want to be a bandit running into someone's home territory when they know you are coming? They know what you are coming with. They know when you are coming, and they have home advantage. I just don't think, I mean, many bandits are not very smart, but I think even the dumb bandits are not that dumb. And I think that's a good deterrent. And I don't mind things like that in more communities. I remember we were speaking about this when Tuna Puna was doing likewise. We were speaking about this last night when we were talking about how do we address some of the really difficult situations. The really difficult situations inside communities. Osmano says, what if the bandits are from Bamboo Self? Well, then that's perfect. It will make all of this easier to solve. Because now, when the crime occurs, you can't say that it was some outsiders did it. We now know we can smallen the net of who the suspects might be. We want more things like this. I wouldn't mind if basically every community was run like this. Every community. When you drive in to Diamond Vale, you meet a booth, they recognize who you are, etc. It's not a problem. Just the community, the residents of the community want to make sure that they understand who is going through their community. I don't think that's a problem. And if I have no mal intent for the community, why should that bother me? I going to get a little mount for my engine or something inside of the bamboo. They want to stop me to ask me who I am. That's going to bother me? Sir, I am Nathan. I come for an engine mount. I mean, to put the actual gate, Mr. Chow, I might actually make it a lot more difficult if you put a gate. But I have no problem with communities controlling and knowing who is inside of it. What about installing humps in the road to slow down speeders? Bro, if you know I hate humps, eh? But, now, being a family man with my own home and my child, etc., I fully understand the humps. If I sit inside of my home and you hear somebody on the road, like, jeez, that clown. It hurts. But as a driver, I hate humps. And some people build horrible humps. Some people build horrible humps. Those sharp, short humps. Who you trying to damage? spread it out a little bit. Yeah, understand the curvature a little bit now. But humps in and of themselves won't be a good security measure in and of themselves. If you're talking about humps as a security measure, they're not a super effective security measure. What if in some communities gangs begin implementing booths? Well, again, if a gang does that, that makes everything much easier to identify. Because in order for these communities to do these booths successfully, they must be in partnership with the police. So, okay, the gang is going to partner with the local police to inform the police of when any criminal activity happens. No problem. Well done, gang. And the truth of the matter is, where gangs can, they already implement checkpoints. I don't want to call any actual location, but you could go into a gang's home territory without calling ahead. The gangs do that. Those gangs have better security in their home bases than many of the communities have. You find out where a gang's home base is, where all of their members lie, where the leader chills, and see if you could go in there just so. Places should be like Hunger Games with the different districts where it's only wall and home checkpoints. I mean, I don't know if we wanted that level. That level might be a little much. That level might be a little much. Hunger Games and massive walls and checkpoints. Maybe not. But you understand, and the reality is, these things happen when you are in low trust societies. You can't get high trust societies goodies when your society has become a low trust society. There was once upon a time, and some villagers will tell you this, where they didn't have a fence, they didn't have a wall, their door used to stay open whole day, whole night, and everybody come and go, and they didn't have to worry about it. That's true. There was once upon a time like that. That's because you were in a high trust society. Unfortunately, due to all the myriad of other factors, yes, family degradation, government gimme syndrome, outside influence, degradation of morality and religious seriousness, okay, all of that, due to diversity to some extent, due to a lot of those things, we are no longer in a high trust society. That's the reality. And you are going to have to face the consequences of that. So, one of the consequences of that, bro, I used to walk home in San Juan after midnight showing Presidente as a teen girl. You're showing your age there, Michelle. Because that was no time in the last 10 years. I could tell you that. San Juan, Sawa? Nah, not Sawa. And we are going to have to face the consequences of being now in low trust societies, of the trust in our societies being degraded, not being where it once was. We're going to have to face those consequences. So when people ask for arms, when people ask to be armed more, they want more citizen gun ownership. That's why it's a low trust society. If we were all on a commune together with only our family members, you won't see the need to arm yourself well, according to what kind of family members you have. But generally speaking, in a high trust atmosphere, you don't see the need to do that. If you didn't feel the need, the distrust of outsiders from your community, you wouldn't have the feeling to have that booth. But what we are seeing now is outside communities, and you all remember we spoke about this before, where we are watching and it's looking like olden days where one tribe in a village here raids another tribe from another village and carries back the spoils to their village. That's what it's looking like. Because many of these home raiders now are coming from communities on the other side of the country, going and raiding another community and going back to their home community, and they are protected there. Okay, well, if you want to live like separate tribal villages, build up the booths and do it officially. We have created more low trust societies. So, you mean like what Venezuela trying to do, but on an international scale? Yep. But who knows, maybe the pipeline that creates some of these misbehaved miscreants in our society from school days come up. Maybe we may be getting a cut out of some of that. Education Minister acts on bad behavior. Mandatory MILAT for expelled students. I know we have spoken about this in the live before. Unruly students will not be left idle after expulsion, but will instead be enrolled in the military-led academic training program through a mandatory policy to cut down on indiscipline while ensuring learning objectives are met. The policy was announced by the Minister of Education during a media conference at her ministry on St. Vincent Street. Dr. Gadsby Daly said her ministry was committed not only to upgrading the physical infrastructure of schools, but also initiating measures to enhance the academic performance of students. Pointing out that school officials were usually hesitant to expel students, Gadsby Daly said, in a lot of cases, principals may not want to go the distance of the process of suspension or applying for extended suspension and bringing it to the fore so that there's a record in the behavior. And what that does is that it encourages student misbehavior because they believe they can misbehave without consequences. In a lot of cases, when we see students reaching the endpoint where they have to be expelled, it's because they feel that will never happen to them, and so they continue with that behavior. Teachers haven't been paid for 3 months. Substitute teachers. Us says, me and agree with Mylat. I do. Wide Leather says, school giving the worst behaved 16-year-olds military training. Nothing bad can come from this. Mylat isn't military training in the sense of just learning how to fight and hold a gun. It's military training in the sense of high levels of discipline. That's what it's military training in the sense of. As in military school. Not as in you're training them to be assassins and special ops soldiers. That's not what happens at Mylat. It's just much more stringent on discipline. And I agree with what the minister is saying there. How does that address trauma? Osmanos, I fed up here the word trauma. Throw away the word trauma. The more we have addressed trauma, the more we have made situations worse. The more psychologists we send to the youths, the more crazy the youths get in. Haven't we understood by now that many of these psychologists trained in trauma specialty, but they don't have a child of their own? They don't know what they're talking about. Some of these children, like, they need more trauma. We were getting better behaved children when they were coming out of world wars and seeing their parents blown to bits in war fields. Traumatic experiences were giving us better children. Address trauma. If you know, look at countries that do that kind of handsy-pansy, softy-woffy nonsense, where you see a 16-year-old violent young man and think what he needs is a loving touch. It's the trauma in his upbringing that created this. He needs an embrace. He just needs that embrace, you know, and that is all he needs. Poor method application doesn't deny the need for therapy. Fact. But I don't care in the grand scheme. therapy is in the nuanced circumstances. You're looking into the specifics, and maybe we see a glimmer of hope. Well, we get a therapist there. The main issue is getting the indisciplined child out from the school where they are harming the other disciplined students. The main issue. That's the main issue. You see, the obsession with the trauma on the indisciplined students has allowed for years the forsaking of the interests of the well-behaved students. And that's part of the problem. You know, we don't want to expel these students. If we expel them, they can no longer apply for a public school. And you know, some of these students have grown up in really unfortunate circumstances, and it's their trauma, and we are seeing their trauma here. That's what they're living out, and their trauma is traumatizing my good child. My good child, who is supposed to be learning maths and English, is being traumatized. While we worried about the trauma there. No, the most important thing, get them out of there. The school system is not for treating your traumatized child. The school system is for imparting information in the process of education. Fair point, Nathan, but the root of the child's issue is not being resolved. Maybe it's not, but the root of the school's issue is being resolved. And this minister is the Minister of Education. She's trying to resolve the issue in the school. The issue is the school. So, okay, we get them in the MyLAT program, and in the MyLAT program, then we could look at the MyLAT program and we see, okay, there's some differences in there. There are some students who look like, you know, a little coaxing is what they need, and yes, okay, we get that for them. But let's do that outside of the school system now. Let's stop the children from being advantaged daily. Let's stop good children from having to have a nightmare for 7 years in secondary school. Please, let's stop that. That's kind of the more important part. And to be honest, to me, it's the parents' fault why most of these children are doing that. Fact. Now, parents should be fined, someone says, and you all know I have no problem with that. My view is that parents are ultimately responsible for what a child does. That's my view. And I take this from, and children are not dogs. I am saying this. Children are not dogs. But if I have a pit bull and my pit bull goes over to the neighbor's yard and bites the neighbor's dog, I am liable for any damage my pit bull causes. If you grow your child like a little pit bull and your little pit bull comes into the school and starts biting people in the school, I think you should be legally liable for everything your little pit bull does. Do you believe in corporal punishment? From parents, yes. I think schools are too wide of a catchment right now for corporal punishment to be brought back. The same issue is what you're going to face. Like if we look at violence in children, and you rate it on a scale of 0 to 100, violence and disruption, you could have a child at the scale of 100 and a child at 0. If you are in a school and you allow corporal punishment and the deans in the school are there issuing licks, and now they have to find the average. So no, the average, because of the kind of school, I hope you all are following my point here. Because of the kind of catchment we have in our schools now, it's so broad. You're going to have 100 disruptive children and 0 disruptive children. If you have to find the average in how to deal with them, it's going to be 50. That's 50 more than the 0 child needs and 50 less than the 100 child needs. I think what we need to do is separate them more, so it would be easier to deal with the children through the various methods. And yes, some of them may include corporal punishment. I know that might be controversial to some, but I find it very strange that corporal punishment would be controversial when we're trying to groom the child. But if that boy reaches 21 and does some crime, he could go in jail and we could beat him mercilessly. That makes no sense. Best we allow some corporal punishment at the earlier stages. So, but as it stands with the massive wide schools, I don't think corporal punishment is a good idea. As our public education system stands, I don't think it's a good idea. I think though, like for example, many parents who send their children to private schools, they give instruction to some of those private schools because they understand that, okay, there may be where the limitations lie. Corporal punishment is abuse and lazy parenting, in my opinion. That is your opinion. I don't think so. I think corporal punishment can be abuse, and I think lazy parents abuse their children often. I also think that some lazy parents don't discipline their children at all. So, yeah. Like, corporal punishment to me is plainly a method in, if you look at it from the biological point of view, in the animal kingdom, in growing young to old. You show them there is a physical consequence to this thing. The physical consequence doesn't have to break their hand. Like a flick, that's corporal punishment. A pinch is corporal punishment. And I don't think that's abuse. The intention of that is not abuse. That's not what that is for. Many abusers call their abuse corporal punishment. It's like the bamboo, both. It's a deterrent. Thank you, Michelle. And with corporal punishment, I regularly say this. You could be a fierce proponent of corporal punishment and have never hit your child. Because corporal punishment, saying you believe in corporal punishment doesn't mean that you believe every week you must take out your belt and stroke your child a 20 lashes per week. You know, that's what corporal punishment is. On a Sunday evening, you take out your belt and give them a good 20 whacks. That's the last year through the week. No. Believing in corporal punishment is basically just saying that you believe you will enact a physical consequence if they cross a certain limitation. Let me rephrase then. Hitting a child with an object of any sort for the slightest thing is abuse. What? Why? Why do you think so? Is it based on, is your idea that causing a child pain is abuse? Anytime you cause pain to a child, that's abuse? Because I'm trying to get the abstract principle you're basing this on here. So is it that causing a child pain is abuse? Or only causing a child physical pain is abuse? Because there are many things in life that are painful. And something I've noted is many of the people who speak about not hitting a child and stuff, they do so oftentimes from places of massive privilege too also, where they have few enough children to pay an enormous amount of attention. And then sometimes you look at the consequent results and you wonder if it was a better thing. I've never seen corporal punishment not end up as abuse. Parents always seem to overdo it. Well, Wide Leather, I don't know the parents that you know, but I've many times seen corporal punishment not end in abuse. So, white leather, you've never seen a parent pinch a child and it end at that? Or you've never seen a parent flick a child on the hand, don't do that, and it ended at that? You've never seen that ended at that? You've always seen, every time a parent do a child, you've always seen them close the face and hit the child a square to the face after. That's always how it ends. Every time. Always. You do understand. If a child goes to touch a hot pot and you do so, you do understand that's corporal punishment. We need some statistics on this for additional reference. I did a live on this. I did a live on this a while back where we went through the statistics on corporal punishment. And the statistics on corporal punishment are a gaping hole when you actually dive into the analysis of it. We actually read through the statistics of it. And the problem is, all corporal punishment is in one catchment, as in they consider abusers as corporal punishers also. So you can't have, there's no distinguishing between somebody who gives their child a swat versus somebody who is breaking their children's limbs. We have to take in our culture to, Nathan, we are a physically violent people. I mean, I don't even know if I fully agree with that. I've seen a parent pinch on blood let on multiple occasions, surprisingly in church. Okay, I didn't say that parents don't overdo, but that's not to say that every parent who engages in corporal punishment always overdoes it. That's what you said. Every parent always overdoes it. I don't have that view. So do we need to categorize the corporal punishment? Yes, I think we do. I think we do need to categorize the corporal punishment. Corporal punishment as a final punishment for transgression, where it's never carried over the point of rage. Like, these things are taught. I don't know what groups you all grew up in, but in my growing up, these things are taught, that you don't, if you're engaging in corporal punishment, it's never out of anger. You calm down and you let the intention is to let a child know that there's a physical consequence to this ultimately. And to me, there's a logical basis for this. There's a logical basis also why not every child is necessarily going to be needing of corporal punishment. You're in a privileged group, Nathan. I can assure you you're in the minority here. Yeah, I don't doubt that. I think the majority of children don't get a perfect upbringing. I don't doubt that. The majority of children don't get a perfect upbringing. But I do not buy. Of course they do. Of course, I am not blind to that fact at all. What I do not buy, that's where I don't buy it, Michelle. I don't believe it starts with lashes. Abuse does not start with lashes, Michelle. You're someone, and as an expert in that field, abusers don't start with lashes. So the abuse, an abusive parent, is not about corporal punishment. That's not what only makes a parent an abuser. The corporal punishment is just a part of the whole thing. So there could be non-abusive parents who do corporal punishment. There could be abusive parents who do corporal punishment. There could be abusive parents who don't do corporal punishment also. As a culture, we don't beat to discipline, we beat to control. Like, that's a wide generalization. As a culture, we beat because we are a Christian dominated culture, and in the Judeo-Christian principle, spare the rod, spoil the child. That is the moral basis behind why as a culture we beat. Now, you could get a psychologist to tell you this is really about control, and it's about the ego of one trying to impart its power over the other. And I don't buy all of that oppressor versus oppressed narratives that they try to put over every situation. But yes, there are abusers who do things for strange reasons. They are abusers, and the abuse, but our methods of corporal punishments are analogous to that of chattel slavery. What? Says who? You do understand that spare the rod, spoil the and the word they use is rod, was a verse, an idea written down some nearly 3,000 years ago. But white leather, is that chattel slavery? In chattel slavery, did they beat you with pot, spoon, rope, anything at hand? You see, a lot of the complaints, and this annoys me to no end, when it sounds so much like a 14-year-old still have the grouse against daddy and grow till 32 and still talking like 14. Like, didn't you spend any time learning in the decades in between? Learning something? We're still talking about some of these things, not understanding the reality. Okay, a lion, the lioness bites her cub because her cub was going to walk out there, and there's a hyena, a pack of hyenas that patrol beyond that rock, and the cub was going to play there. The lioness ran, bit her cub, and flung her 20 feet in that direction. Yes, it happens. I'm pretty sure there are abusive parents who beat their children for no reason at all out there. Yeah. Why do you think that I disagree with that? Men are disciplinarians, balance. What we are reaping is a society out of balance. And I agree. And here's the thing, as a teacher, this is the problem here. And I think many people need to become teachers and interact with the general population of children. You learn a lot. I have seen my daddy don't beat me, my mommy don't beat me. I have seen those children. I have seen the children who understand there is no final consequence for my actions. I have seen how they operate. I have seen where they do no licks and the children are well disciplined. But those households very often pay an enormous amount of attention. And very often they're girls. If you have one girl and you think that licks is unnecessary, I think you may not have the experience to determine that as yet. It's strange. We're in a generation now where they're saying, no, beating the boy is bad. You cannot beat the boys. Don't pull out the stick. Don't pull out the guava whip. But here's what. We're going to pump him full of pills. From the time he's 4 till he is 16, because actually we find he's too hyper, he cannot sit down, he isn't behaving. So this problem isn't a disciplinary problem. This is a psychological problem. He needs meds, he needs pills. We have diagnosed him now with ADHD, and we will medicate that problem out. So pumping your baby full of pills isn't abusive. No. And the idea that Trinidad is a culture where every parent is just real beat their children. Are you living in the 1980s? Go ask the teachers right now in school. Many of those children don't get any licks. They get no kind of discipline. And you could tell. You know what would be real interesting to me? You know what would be very interesting to me? A study like this. Go into the prestige schools and do a survey. Do it on boys because girls are different than boys. Do it in the boys' prestige schools. Go into the boys' prestige schools and do a survey on how many of them get licks relatively often if they go overboard. And then go into the worst performing government schools and ask the boys there how often they get licks. Who do you think would get licks more? If you were to just make a guess, who do you think would get licks more? The boys better performing in the prestige schools or the boys worst performing in the government schools? If you had to guess, who get licks more? I could tell you who I would guess, having been one of those boys. Go in prayers. Ask how many of them know. How many of them know? Us man, us. Did you go to a college or a prestige school? Ask anybody you know who went to a prestige school. Boys, ask them. If good. Ask your schoolmates. If they knew their father would have bust their tail if they do XYZ, they would tell you yes. And here's the thing. You could look at results. Now, here's what I would predict in a study like this. I'm guessing this study here. I have not done this study. I'm guessing. But here's what I would guess. I would guess that the prestige school boys would have had more threats of licks. But I would guess some of the government school boys would have had worse experiences of licks. Like, they know the time that the stepfather had pulled out the garden hose and beat them till their back was bleeding. And that was the only time he ever beat them, you know? They may have that experience. Oh gosh, Ronnie. Oh gosh. True. Good point. Good point. Very good point. Like, I have seen it. I watch in ghetto communities, and I watch sometimes how they train how they train young boys from young growing up. Sit down there. This is them telling the boy, sit in that seat and stay there. The boy gets up and walks away. Okay, they leave him. He comes back. They put him, sit down in that seat there. He gets up and walk away. He does this 5 times. The next time, they hit him a hard lash, a open hand on his little back, and he head the back go boop, 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 boop. And I tell you, sit down in that seat, stay right there, don't get up. And they throw him in the seat. And then he gets up again. And they say, them boys so hard there, boy, the licks don't do them nothing, you know. The problem wasn't corporal punishment. The problem was you have no idea how to discipline a child. It's not that that corporal punishment should be banned because you are unable to discipline a child. The child is young. You are able to literally physically hold the child in the seat. And bear in mind, holding down a child physically is corporal punishment too. But that is exactly what it is, Michelle. People, and that's why I asked about the prestige boys. Most prestige school boys, many of them may have actually gotten licks very few times. I know boys who probably never get licks in their life, but paranoid about the prospect of daddy beating them. They never actually got the licks, you know. It's that they understood that if you overdo it here, there's a consequence that is going to hurt you. That's the idea. It's teaching that there's a hierarchy of punishment. That if you accelerate this, it will be accelerated against you. Do boys respect fathers more? By far, I think. By far. %100%, Michelle. 100%. Here's something that I've noticed in years of teaching too. Mothers beat more than fathers. Let me put it this way. Mothers that beat more than fathers. You ask the average person, if you had a mother that beats and a father that beats, who gave you more licks? They will let you know. And therein may be a lesson also. That male figure, the threat of his capability of violence actually decreases the need for violence. We see it in the police service too. They have done studies on the police service, and they realize that women police officers tend to use their guns and tasers more. Why? They have less of the physical threat of violence. Exactly, Michelle. Exactly. And I think fathers that do the disciplinarian role well, they get that position where the child respects them with an extreme adulation, but with a hint of nearly fear, because you understand this person is so much physically stronger than me. I don't want to cross this person. There are boys, there are men reaching the 30s, and their fathers are retirees, and they still have it in their mind. They are a little worried about tackling their father. I feel he could handle me. I feel if I tackle my father, he might tumble me. Because it's something that was inculcated in you from birth. My daughter already understands that daddy is the stronger one. You're not going to get thrown up in the air and spin around and flip around and all of that from mommy. That's an understanding that you grow with. You understand there's a physical difference. I think, Ronnie, that the fear blends into respect. Yeah, you see, it's a fear that blends into respect. It's not like you're afraid of someone. So, a waterfall. If you watch a waterfall, it's a fearful thing. But unless you have some kind of phobia, you won't be afraid of it. But you could see that, wow, that's a fearful thing. And if you have that kind of view with the authority, it works. But it's also love. Love their dad, respect their dad, and fear them a bit too. Yep. It's all blended into one. Bear in mind, we created words for these emotions. But the emotion that a boy would feel to his father, it's not like that emotion comes with a name. We have created words trying to explain these emotions. So the love, the fear, the respect is all blended into one emotion, if done right. That's why sometimes, like, if you look at You read stories, you read articles, you read experiences, and many men talk about how they feel the moment they see their father in a vulnerable position. So for some men, their father becoming incapacitated in some way, that demolishes their internal sense of how things work. That damages some young men just seeing their father incapacitated. So you understand and really and truly, the daughters have a similar view of fathers. It's a similar role for both boys and girls. It's just the effect, I think, is a bit different. It is very similar to how we love yet fear God. Yes, it is a similarity to that. It's why, at least in the Christian faith, we call God God the Father. It gives that understanding. The reason they use God the Father is to give you the understanding of the position that God is there. Like the first time you see your father get beat up, well, I hope nobody I hope nobody has to see their father get beat up. That will be a very disturbing thing to see. You might fight. That actually is one of the tragedies of slavery. Yup, curve on. You grow up seeing your father humiliated, embarrassed, and a small, tiny person. That's not a good thing. And some of those things were very purposeful. Very purposeful. Made to break the human psyche and continue the cycle. Very purposeful in their intention. Hey! We closing in on the close there, folks. Any further comments or questions inside of the chat? Good night, Michelle. Good night. I'm looking to head out myself there. If no further questions or comments inside of the chat. All right, people. It was nice. Enjoy your weekend too, Michelle. This has been the Mindful Live. I am Nathan Springer. I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained. I will see you guys again for the next Mindful Live, which is going to be Monday evening, jumping around that 9 p.m. time. I know I was late this week, but this week was a bit of a busy week. But jumping around that 9 p.m. time, and we'll be here Monday for the next Mindful Live. If you are interested, this, as always, is brought to you. The reason I can do this and just stay up here wasting time, what pays for this is the educational institution that I run, Mindful Education. We offer personalized homeschool style classes for learning stages from preschool. Or preschool classes are probably the most subscribed to. We have really good reports on that. Children starting, if you want your child to get that genius start off, not to toot our own horns, but those kids in the preschool stages, they're doing well. But we offer preschool stages all the way up to CXC. We don't do age range, we do learning stages, and they have that small, around 6-person class, no massive classes there, so they could get familiar with their fellow students and their tutors and their teachers. If you're interested in that, you can get in touch with us at Mindful Education, Mindful_education over on Instagram. We also offer one-on-one tutoring for most CAPE and CXC subjects. You're looking to do over a CAPE or CXC subject, or you're doing it the first time and you really think you need that specific one-on-one attention in some one of those subjects, contact us. We'll get a tutor out there to you. They come to you if you want. We'll send one right to where you are comfortable, or you could come to our location and you would still have the one-on-one attention in nice, quiet, peaceful surroundings. So whichever you are interested in, get in touch with us. When I make my 6 kiddos, I can't wait to send them Mindful Education, and we can't wait to have them all runny cakes, every last one of them. All right, people, hold it down. Have a good weekend. What's the Insta again? Mindful with 2 L's, Mindful with 2 L's _education. All right, hold it down. I wish you well. Have a safe weekend. Have some fun out there, and I'll see you guys again Monday. Bye. Latest, people.